practice like this. Wake up.
Welcome to the State of Hockey podcast, featuring Justin Jelnick and Joe Hayford. Let's talk hockey.
Welcome to episode 6 of the State of Hockey podcast, edition for Monday, the 20th of April. It is day 6 of the greatest sports tournament in the history of the world. I'm your host, Justin Jelnick, along here with my co-host, Joe Hayford. Joe, how are you?
Absolutely spectacular today.
Oh, that's wonderful. It was quite a good start to the series for the Minnesota Wild this week, I would say.
I say not just a good start. We definitely came out and performed even better. You know, I picked them to win the series, but I think we performed better than I even thought.
Well, they definitely look good in both games at times. So, but I guess we can go ahead and just start talking about the games. Thursday night, the Wild opened the series at St. Louis in a game that they ended up winning 4-2 after an interesting ending, to say the least. Joe, what were your thoughts on this one?
My thought was, how many game winners do you see that are empty netters?
That was my fun fact from that game, is that both Allen and Dubnyk gave up the same number of goals, and Allen gets to be the losing goalie.
Yeah, it was definitely chaotic at the end. It was hard to follow. Kind of had to make sense of it by watching it back.
So, Zucker got the scoring going in that game, 2:47 into the first, on an amazing individual effort to retain a puck in the zone and then get his own rebound and beat Allen on a wraparound. That was just an incredible effort, I'd say.
Yeah, especially on a play that it was the end of the shift. It looked like he was going to go off on a change. I think Jake Allen thought he was going to go off on a change, but instead he chased it down, and like you said, great effort.
And then my favorite rookie, Matt Dumba, made it 2-0 on a blast on a what appeared to be a new and improved power play for the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, it's definitely a new wrinkle in that power play, and it gave St. Louis some trouble. And I don't want to say that was a great goal. I like the goal by Dumba. I liked how that he shot it, but that was a Charlie Coyle goal. He did the screening there that allowed that goal to go in.
Absolutely, but really, other than Matt Dumba, who else on the Wild even takes that shot on the power play right now?
Oh, I definitely agree with you.
So, I wouldn't...
Definitely agree.
I mean, yeah, he does... Yeah, obviously, Coyle's screen contributes, but that doesn't go in unless somebody with Dumba's ability is willing to shoot there.
Oh, yep, I agree. Scandella, maybe, but
yeah.
I don't usually put him on the power play.
No, I haven't seen him get much time there either. St. Louis pulled one back in the third on a Jaden Schwartz goal to make it an exciting ending. And then Granlund had the last goal of the evening with an empty netter, but that didn't end up being the case.
No, Tarasenko decided to show up.
Yep, and Steen actually got credit for the goal that made it 3-2. But we shouldn't gloss over the incident that happened right before that.
No, Suter definitely getting under Backus' skin.
Yeah, that was not smart, and I guess it's easy to say this in retrospect, but who knows if that penalty may have, or giving up that empty net goal, ended up costing them a chance to tie the game for pulling their goaltender so early, but I know that's 100% outcome bias on my part.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's when I started to think about Ryan Suter and just what a great game he had. It's not the type of Ryan Suter hockey you see, but he really got under Backus' skin all day. He looking back at it, he got away with a bunch of cross checks in that game that probably should have gotten called, but he did them. They were well placed in the game, shall I say?
Yeah, but he was physical, and he I think did a better job protecting the net. He looked most like the Suter we've come to know and love, even though I do believe he hasn't been up to par by his standards this year anyway.
No, he definitely hasn't been up to par, but hey, he's turning it on when we need him to, and Backus has been he's basically been the man on Backus like Holla was on McKinnon last year. And have we heard anything from Backus yet?
No, I saw Yo on Sunday kind of tweak the Avs by saying that they have the Wild are faced with having to shut down more than one weapon, unlike last year. I'm paraphrasing the tweets all over the place in both Russo's and Chad Graff's stories about Yo's presser on Sunday.
Yeah, that
struck me as funny. So
yeah, I think we missed Holla in Game 1 a little bit. I don't know if maybe Holla is the answer for Tarasenko. I guess we'll see the lineup tomorrow.
yeah, Holla just hasn't looked as quick to me this year as he was last year. Maybe he would rise to the challenge. Maybe he's not trusted by coach right now.
Yeah, I wish I knew the backstory there. He hasn't had his step. He's gotten visibly bigger than he used to be. I wish I knew the backstory.
But no less, the Wild do go on to win that one 4-2. Pominville added the last empty netter with 20 seconds to play, if I didn't already say that. That gave them the 1-0 series lead, and Joe and I actually went to the Xcel Energy Center viewing party on Thursday evening, along with a lot of people I knew that came down as well. And we had a good old time.
That was a spectacular event put on by the Minnesota Wild. I really hope they do that again for a few games this playoff series.
I agree. I mean, I get you don't want to do it too often or else it kind of loses its luster, but, more than one every few years would be nice, and I went to the one earlier in the season, too, when they opened on the road against Colorado.
Yeah, but I could see it in the playoffs. I remember back in 2003 when we made that run to the Western Conference. I had a little theater down the street from my house where I grew up that would play the games for free. Let you come in, you'd buy your overpriced concessions, which, who cares? You're watching the game for free, and you get to cheer with people, and you get the environment. And there's just nothing like it. It's amazing. I would go to every game.
I would make as many as I could, no doubt. So, and I hope if anybody at the Minnesota Wild's listening to this, please do more of this. I know I tweet you this all the time as well. But yeah, the atmosphere was great. Fans were loud and into it, and they were cheering and honking their horns in the parking lot on the way out. And it felt like it was really a game that happened there, even though it wasn't. It's definitely better than just watching it on TV.
Yeah, it unfortunately, I think it gave fans, and you saw the backlash on Twitter yesterday, I'm sure, because I did, kind of give fans a false sense of hope or security that we're going to just dominate the series. And as we know, hockey doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Are you referring to just everybody getting all suddenly negative after Game 2?
Exactly.
Yeah, we can probably go ahead and talk about Game 2 right now. So this one did not go the Minnesota Wild's way. I thought they played very well for about the first 10 minutes of the first period, but then they got in the situation where they got stuck in their zone, and that led to the first Tarasenko goal.
And looking back on it, I didn't see the Wild that only play, 20, 30 minutes a game. I mean, yeah, you said they got stuck in their zone a lot, but I think that was more of on the Blues being just doing their job right.
Oh, and before the game on Saturday, I definitely tweeted it out. I expected a better effort from the Blues. I kind of evaluated the first game was 70-30 in favor of who owned possession, just on the eyeball test. That wasn't based on any stats on Thursday, but I definitely expected St. Louis to close the gap, and I think they did overall in the game. So
yeah, and I think it wasn't as bad a performance as people outrageously reacted on Twitter to.
Oh, I definitely think the score was. I mean, the game was much closer than the score showed. It's to pull out a classic cliche there.
Yeah. If Dubnyk doesn't give up that incredibly soft goal that ricocheted off the side of him,
the second one on the power play,
that's a totally different game. And
Tarasenko got that one also, and I don't know if I would deem that a soft goal, more than an unlucky goal. Dubnyk just left a little gap that Tarasenko happened to hit. I mean, probably 90% of the time that doesn't go in.
Yeah, that's true, but he cheated and he paid for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to. I want to be real clear. I'm not going on the I hate Dubnyk. Dubnyk is
No.
rapidly becoming my favorite player on the team, and still to this day, I love the
Good.
guy. He saved our season, and there's nothing that'll ever change that. But he has had a mediocre at best playoff series so far, and that's what's scary about us. What happens when he figures it out and his nerves calm down a little bit?
Yes. So. But, so the Blues 2-0 after one, scoreless second. Scandella gives the Wild some hope early in the third with a blast that pulls them within one.
Yeah, that's another one that is kind of a seeing eye shot through from the point. Nothing Jake Allen could do about that.
No. And then the Wild had a near miss shortly after that got pulled off the line. So they had a couple chances where they would have tied the game if they could have just, a couple of inches here or there, but that's the nature of this game we love sometimes.
Yeah, a bunch of people got frustrated again with Pominville. He had one that was passed right across to him, and he missed the net wide.
Mm-hmm.
Just a bunch of misses that, maybe could have gone in, just some bad puck luck. And, like I said, there was an overreaction. I didn't expect to take the first two. We have never done that in Wild history.
No.
Taking the first two of a series. At this point last year, we were down 2-0 to a worse team. So, hang your hats on that.
I agree. Mad effort to tie it, but then Patrick Berglund puts in the third one for the Blues with about 2 minutes to play on a great move.
That went to Tarasenko because Tarasenko got the hat trick.
No, Tarasenko got the empty netter at the end.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Sure.
But I don't want to talk about that without talking about what happened to Dubnyk on his way to the bench after that.
Yeah.
That was an incredible play.
And that's where I said, it's impossible, even though he's having a rough series, the awareness there to jump back into the play instead of just beeline it for the bench. Like, you see most goalies put their head down and just take off to the bench. He had presence of mind to look down ice, make sure he kept his head in the play. And he came back and
30 feet out of the net. He keeps the game within two, lays out for that. I mean, you got to respect the effort there.
Absolutely. And if we would have scored and tied it up, that would have been, Dubnyk would be a hero in Minnesota for that save.
That said, if Dubnyk lets that one go in, who knows if Tarasenko even gets his empty netter and is the anointed second coming in St. Louis.
Exactly.
But he does add the empty netter at the end to make it a 4-1 count for the Blues to even the series. So the Wild split the first two in St. Louis 1-1. They're in pretty good shape, considering they really had an opportunity to win both games, and they really were the better team clearly in Game 1, and Game 2 was closer. But I still say the Wild could have had their chances if a couple bounces went differently.
Yeah, I agree. We're a bounce or two away from this being 2-0 Wild. Bounce or two the other way, and we're still up we're still tied 1-1. So definitely outplayed played the Blues in the first two games, and excited to see the energy of the crowd at the Axe on Monday night.
Thursday.
Well, I'm going on Wednesday, but
no, you mean Monday coming? Yes. I'm sorry. I thought we were doing party for a second. My bad. So, yep. So 1-1 split for the Wild. We got one favorite moment that got tweeted in from @_Uncanny Megan. That's Megan Canny. Safe to call her friend of the show by now.
Yeah, I think so. She's on the show every week.
Yeah. I think she's had a tweet in every week. So, but I'll let all the listeners in. If you use hashtag SOTSOPOD, SOTSOHPOD, there's a very good chance you're going to get your tweet read unless it's completely unintelligible or something like that, which that hasn't happened so far. So we love to hear your comments, but we'll mention Megan's comment here. Her favorite night was part of Thursday night's game was Stu not taking the fight bait, just play the game. So, and
I think Stu did take the fight bait. Ott was trying to needle at him and draw a penalty.
Yeah.
I think Stewie was ready to go, if I read his lips correctly, and Ott walked away.
Yeah. Yeah, might have been referring to the Granlund incident too, actually, at the end when Backus cheap shot at him.
Yeah, that he definitely didn't take the fight bait, and that was definitely classy of him. More classy, I think, than most people thought he was going to be like here.
Saw a lot of criticism on Saturday's game from a few places that Wild didn't play so disciplined when they got behind and took penalties that they shouldn't have.
Yeah, any team is going to do that. There was a lot said about that on, was it Thursday night? On Twitter, that the Blues were taking stupid penalties and the Blues were just destroying our guys because they were frustrated. Well, there's frustration that goes into hockey, and bad penalties are taken. I will say this: they weren't dirty penalties like the Blues, the roughing, the cross-checking, the high sticking. They were your stick infractions. They were holding. They were interference. They were stuff like that. Not the dirty penalties. We were trying to get back in the game, trying to keep ourselves in the game.
And for the record, on Saturday, I think the call that led to the Dumba penalty that led to the second Blues goal was incredibly soft and should have at minimum been evened up, unless they were only calling the initial push, which was an incredibly soft call.
Yeah, I think we've exhausted talking about refs on the show here.
Never.
We have to persevere. We did it last year.
Yeah.
It's not anywhere near as bad as it was last year.
I wouldn't even compare this year to last year. I mean, I'm nitpicking compared to everything that went wrong last year with the Stripes.
Yeah, last year was awful, and any improvement from that, honestly, I'm okay with. So I kind of let that stuff roll off my back. I still think we're in a great position.
Well, I admire the spirit there, Joe. So I think that's the right attitude. So let's talk about our 3 stars for this week.
He scores!
You want stars?
You believe in miracles? Yes!
We got stars.
And the Wild are a Dubnyk save away from a shootout win.
State of Hockey's 3 stars of the week.
Save Dubnyk! And the Wild win at the shootout!
It's my week to run through them, so most of the stars we picked this week were mostly based on their performance on Thursday, to be perfectly honest. So that was the game it was a lot easier to pick stars from. Our third choice is somebody that actually didn't hit the score sheet this week, but we want to give him some recognition for playing what we felt was the best game we've seen him play in a long time, and that was Ryan Suter for his performance on Thursday night.
Yes, as I've mentioned a few times, Ryan Suter, by far my favorite player on the team. I'm more of a defensive-minded player myself, and he did his job. He got under the skin of Backus. He was first to the net, in front of the net, defending. He made sure his presence was quietly known on the ice.
Yeah, and I think that's just something that has kind of fallen off this year during the regular season, and I mean, maybe there's speculation that he's playing a little slower because maybe he's playing through something, because that would totally be a Ryan Suter thing to do. But I really think he stood up to the tough competition on Thursday night and was instrumental in that victory, even though it doesn't show on the score sheet.
Yeah, and even going back into game 2, he was never out of position. He was never responsible for a goal. Again, he had Backus' number all game. He did what he was out there to do.
Fortunately, he was on the ice for a couple, but...
the player that had a bad game, Brodin, was on the ice with him.
Yeah,
so
he did get beat a couple times, even just by a half step, but that's plenty with a player like Tarasenko.
Yeah, Brodin had a pretty rough game, and I look for him to rebound. I mean, he's a grade A player, and I don't think that's going to be a pattern for him.
I would agree as well. So our number 2 star this week is the guy that I think I put it every week, and maybe we're getting sick of it, but Matthew Dumba for putting in the go-ahead goal in Game 2, and he is still he was the Corsi leader again for the 2 games this week in all situations, 64%. And so he's still driving possession. I know he had a potentially costly turnover again, but on the whole, I think his upside is far outweighing his downside, even though he's still coming up with the mistakes that hopefully will just work out with experience.
Yeah, he's going to be such a special player, and he leads all rookie scores since coming to the NHL. Since being called back up on that for the second time.
Oh, that
So
that is quite the deal. I think his last AHL game was the AHL All-Star game, and he was called up at the same time as the Dubnyk trade, and that kind of got unnoticed. And he was a big part of. I think he had a goal in that first Dubnyk game against Buffalo. Well, when they just blew him out.
yeah, I think not enough credit is given to Dumba on his play. We seem to give him a lot of credit, and I do give him the share of criticisms, but there's no doubt in my mind he's going to be a special player.
The thing I like about Dumba is any criticism of his game really can be fixed with experience if he does the work. And I actually read a good ESPN.com piece about his work with Torchetti during his last stint in Iowa before he was called up again. About how he was a really willing learner, and they went over lots of tape, and he was basically their Ryan Suter down there. He got all the minutes he could handle, and he made the most of it, and made sure he was ready next time he was called up.
Yeah, and the thing I like about him is he's kind of interchangeable. I think we could easily, if we needed to, like a Burnsy or maybe even Bickle, although much more talented than Bickle. Yeah. We could swap him between forward and defenseman if we needed. He's like a utility guy for us.
We'll see if that comes into being. I certainly am glad he's where he is, especially because I don't have a lot of faith in the blue line down the depth chart and in the AHL right now.
Yeah, I think that'll change in the offseason.
Yeah.
We're going to have a little cap space, I think, to play with, depending on how big Dubnyk's contract is.
Yeah, that is the I'm gonna say $4 million question, but I remember we did get into this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But once their season's over, we're definitely gonna have a good long show about their cap situation and who's out there to get and so forth. So I'll look forward to that for sure.
Absolutely. Who's our number one star?
Our number one star this week is the amazing individual effort to score the first goal of the playoffs for the Wild, Jason Zucker.
Yeah, how special is this guy? Again, last week we talked about him. Mm-hmm. He was our second star last week, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And just what a way to turn it on.
Yeah.
I knew this guy was special when he scored the goal against Chicago to win us our only game 2 years ago in the playoffs.
That was good. I was at that game, and I couldn't even believe it went in from where he shot that from.
Yeah, that was very pure Marc Bouchard-like.
Yeah, and actually, fun fact: Pierre Bart Bouchard and Matt Cullen were the other forwards on that line, and neither one is here anymore.
No, and Pierre-Marc Bouchard doesn't play in the NHL, and Matt Cullen's quietly having a very good season in Nashville, though.
I like Matt Cullen. I do miss him.
So do I.
But that's all right. But yeah, so we'll do some honorable mentions. I got Devin Dubnyk on the list for 94% save percentage on Thursday's game and just 2 goals allowed. He leveled off on Saturday, so he's only 89.3 overall right now between the 2 games.
Yeah, he definitely a good performance. He quietly was not having such a great performance, but that was because we only gave up like 8 shots and one of them was a goal. Yep. And then they kind of peppered us at the end there, so.
He rose to that challenge. That was good. I got Jason Pominville for 112 this week, and he's second on the team in Corsi in all situations at 62%.
Yeah, well, Jason Pominville, like I said, I saw his performance in Game 1. I looked for him to have a very good performance in Game 2, and it might not have hit the score sheet, but I think he did have a good performance in Game 2 as well.
I would agree. I got Zach Parise on as well for 2 helpers and 58% on Corsi in all situations. Even though he hasn't scored a goal yet, I certainly think he's been making his presence felt.
He has, and I noticed something I don't notice from Zach Parise a lot. In Game 2, he didn't step up on a puck that was coming across the blue line. He kind of played back. I don't know if he didn't think there was a defenseman behind him. So he kind of fell into that position. But
a little more conservative posture.
Yeah, and it wasn't something I'm normally seeing from him, but it was a little concerning, but I maybe he just missed the guy behind him. Or maybe it was Brodin behind him, so maybe it was noticing Brodin was having a rough game.
One other I'm going to mention that might surprise some people. I got Jordan Leopold as an honorable mention. He hit 57% Corsi in all situations, despite being the only one over 50 on the team that had very negative zone starts. So he's being put out in tough situations and rising.
Yeah, he's exactly the kind of guy you want at the end of the game, that chaotic type of player that's just going to go full speed at it and find the puck. And at the end of game 2 is when at the end of game 1 is when I really saw him show up, and he definitely carried that into game 1. And I think they threw him out there right away too, in game 2 that you didn't see in game 1. He was all over the place, and definitely kudos to him on his performances.
Yeah, so those are the honorable mentions. 3 stars, we had 3 Suter, 2 Dumba, and 1 Zucker. Those are your 3 stars for the week. So, you kind of mentioned this with Leopold being a guy you trust being thrown out at the end of the game. That kind of reminded me of a thought I had yesterday is, why is Vanek out there at the end of game 2 when he just did not put forth a good effort at all? In my opinion, that kind of took me aback.
This goes back to even before I think we started our podcast. I think if Yo has one fault about him, it's his inability to. I mean, I think he has veteran goggles, so to speak. Their big name player. He's afraid to maybe bench them or not give them the minutes they're requesting, or maybe not put them out there when they want to be out there. I don't understand the logic. I think Vanek had an awful game. He gave up our first goal in the second game.
I certainly wouldn't say that Yo's been too shy about Vanek. I mean, Vanek basically asked for more ice time back in January, or back in like November-ish, because he wanted to be in top 6 and not play third line minutes, and he got to do that for a few games and didn't really produce, so he ended up back on the third line in pretty short order. And thankfully the other players now on the third line have helped him out, because he did have a pretty good run there in March and April, but I did not care for his game one bit on Saturday.
No, it was pretty bad. It was the Vanek that we saw during our big swoon in the middle of the season.
And the Vanek Montreal saw toward the end of their run last year.
Yep, and I was worried about this, and here we are. And I get a lot of criticism on Twitter for being such a negative Vanek person, but...
See, I don't get that, because I think most of Twitter is pretty anti-Vanek, at least the people I tend to follow. I'm probably been the most give him a chance guy.
Oh, I get direct messages and mentions with memes about Vanek haters gonna hate, and yeah. So. Every time he scores a goal, my Twitter gets blown up.
Yeah, I'm not helping you either. I always point it out to you too. but you know, we're kind of on the same page that he isn't. When he's a two-way player, he's actually pretty good, but he certainly wasn't that yesterday.
Yeah, and he's definitely capable of it. We all know he's talented. He's just, he doesn't have the effort.
Yeah, so it's really a shame. All right, well, let's talk about where we think the rest of the series is going to go. Shifts to St. Paul on tonight and Wednesday. So it's 1-1 right now. I'm sure everybody would have been thrilled to get out of St. Louis with one. It might be disappointing to have a shot at getting both and actually play well enough to get both and just not quite get it done. But 1-1 is still a good result as far as I'm concerned.
1-1 is a great result, and like I said earlier, I'd like to remind people. At this point last year, we were down 2-0, and that team was worse than the one we're playing right now. Granted, we're a better team than we were last year.
Yeah.
But I don't take it for granted. We're up we're tied 1-1. We have home ice advantage now.
Although that's kind of odd because the Wild have been at best a middling home team this year. They don't have a lights out record at the X, like you might expect a team of this caliber to be shut down at home.
Yeah, but the way that they play when they're at home is conducive to playoff hockey. Very structured, very sound. Take less chances. It's conducive to playoff hockey, and I think that we're going to do well.
Probably worth reminding everybody that of the 6 playoff games Wild hosted last year, they did win 5.
That's true. Yes.
I hate to bring up Stanchion Gate, but that was the one.
The stanchions and the X, I'm telling you, man, those
Oh.
things are just awful.
Hala had an amazing goal in that game too, but yeah.
Although the stanchions in St. Louis aren't that great either. I mean,
No.
did you see that Jake Allen almost got one banked in off the back of his leg?
Yeah.
Which meant, by the way, that was the save of the game.
Yeah, and they switched back. They switched away from the seamless glass. I guess it was 2 or 3 seasons ago. Maybe it was more than that. So you got to get used to those weird stanchion bounces again. Because I remember that was a thing back in the 90s too, and I'm sure that was part of the reason, and the fact that seamless glass just looks better. But I get that it is a player safety issue. It doesn't have the give that stanchion sporting glass has.
Right. And the one thing that they do for player safety makes it worse for fans.
Yeah. Oh, that sucks. Okay. So, my thoughts are, I really think the Wild probably need to take both games at the X to have a chance. If they only get a split, it's gonna pretty much all hinge on that Game 5 on Friday.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily. I mean, I guess it depends on how they play.
Yeah.
On how comfortable I'll be, even if we split. Definitely, we need to win one.
Well, yes.
But I think, me and Di talked about this. We watched the game together at Joe Sensors yesterday.
Yes, that was a good time.
And we were talking about it after the game. I didn't think that we were going to have good momentum coming in to the X on Monday night because we didn't really play that well. We were sluggish a little bit there, and then in the third period we turned it on, and I think we completely changed that momentum. Even though the score gap widened, I think we still brought a lot of momentum. We outplayed the Blues in the third. So I think Monday night should be interesting, and we'll see how that goes.
I'm very excited that I was able to get the tickets for that. Thanks, Joe, for working that out.
Not a problem.
For us. And then you guys are going to go to game number 4, and that should be very exciting as well.
Yeah, game 4 will be the... Unfortunately, it's not the clincher anymore.
Sweet try. Yeah. Well, I thought a lot of people got ahead of themselves thinking game 1 meant the Wild were going to run them over. I know St. Louis is a really good team. I think this is going to be a series that probably comes down to who gets calls and who gets bounces more than who's better, because I think these teams are just that close in talent and depth, and goaltending was going to be the X factor, but I really think Allen's been good in 2 games.
Yeah,
I think he's been as good as Dubnyk for sure.
He definitely has been as good as Dubnyk, and the save percentage is even better than Dubnyk's.
I have to say he's probably been slightly better because he got the bounces yesterday.
Yeah, and that's like I mentioned earlier. He's been the difference. Dubnyk hasn't had the greatest of series. Our team has been better, I think, overall both games, and Jake Allen has been better than Dubnyk overall both games. And
I really think the margin between the goalies is just that second goal yesterday. Otherwise, they're pretty close, but since Dubnyk let that second one in through the small pocket, you got to probably give the nod to Allen as to who's been better between the pipes so far.
Yeah, and looking back on it, too, actually, I'm looking at the little video here right now. It looks like he just didn't trust his defenseman, and that was the issue. Because he did cheat, and it looked like he wanted to try and stop a pass across the crease instead of letting his defenseman handle their business.
Yeah.
And that was the difference. So
it's hard when you're in a penalty kill situation, too, I suppose. If you're a goalie, you want to protect any pass you can.
That's true, yeah.
So, but I understand. So, but I knew this was going to be a close series, and I think the Wild are unfortunate that they drew St. Louis. I think losing that last game at St. Louis is really going to hurt them now, especially now that Nashville's finding themselves in so much trouble.
Don't get negative on me yet.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm not getting negative yet. And let's think of it this way: if the games happened the other order, we'd be super high on the Wild right now.
That is true. Yep, we would have been down on Friday and up on Saturday.
I mean, so
I'm still super high on the Wild right now. I think that people overreacted to the game on Saturday. You're not going to win 7 games. This is a Stanley Cup. These teams are all equally matched right now. Number 8 seed and the number 1 seed, they're all equally matched.
Yeah.
It's not easy to get in.
I guess what I'm saying is that they're close enough where it's hard to guarantee victory for either team, and I don't think there'll be any disgrace if the Wild do get knocked out here if they give them a good fight and take them the distance. But I hope upon hope that they can win games 3 and 4 and shut this thing down.
Yeah, I think discipline is what it's going to come down to, and yeah, you said it in another way. You said it with the calls going one way or the other, but we're a more disciplined team than St. Louis, and that I think is going to be the.
And we'll see how Allen responds to playing at the X. I mean, I certainly think Dubnyk, for his first playoff away experience, did very well on Thursday.
Looking forward to seeing the Dubs and how loud they can get in there.
Absolutely. So, all right. So, so I guess let's talk about what else might be on our minds from the other playoff series going on in the NHL. Let's just start with this question. Do you have any second thoughts on any predictions you made last week?
Still no second thoughts. I think I'm doing pretty well.
I think I'm starting to regret Washington after watching Sunday afternoon's game. But, I mean, I think that is still going to be probably the most fun series to watch. But it's starting to look like it's going to go the Islanders' way.
Yeah, and I didn't expect them to really show up with the end of the season that they had. But then again, I just got done saying it is the playoffs, and every team is there for a reason. So.
And by the way, special thanks to anyone out there that entered the Win Justin Jelnick's Money $11.40 playoff bracket giveaway. So we had a few runners for that, and we'll see if anybody beats me and claims first place and the prize. But I think I'm sitting in pretty good shape so far, but it helps that almost every series is 1-1 right now.
Yes. Yeah. Tampa Bay coming back and just destroying Detroit worries me a little bit, but I still think Detroit has the veteran presence to persevere over that.
Yeah. Me and the family were with you at Sensors for at least the first period and a hunk of the second, watching the games on Saturday, and we also saw this great goal by Tampa Bay's Johnson that really put the route on. That put them up 4-0. The crazy breakaway.
Yeah, the crazy breakaway that reminded me a lot of Zach Parise.
Yeah.
Just the unbelievable determination, the second, third chances that he just goes after. That was spectacular.
Kind of a 2-on-1. I didn't notice who the Detroit defender was, but he kind of fell down and left Johnson alone, and he made a great move. And I still like Tampa in this series a lot, especially because it looks like goaltending is going to be an issue for Detroit after getting an outstanding performance in Game 1. It didn't look good yesterday.
Yeah. Jimmy Howard. Bring on Jimmy Howard.
Yeah. I don't think anybody in the pool has Ottawa. I think everybody went Montreal there. I know somebody has Winnipeg right now, and they're down 2-0.
Yeah.
So
I don't know who really would have thought Winnipeg would have won that series, but
I believe that's the bracket that also has Minnesota winning it all. So we'll see what happens. I mean, if I lose $11.40 that way, yeah, if I lose my $11.40 that way, it'll be a happy loss. So, but I have New York over Anaheim still. New York did not look great last night, though.
No, I was kind of shocked to see that they lost.
And to clarify, I meant the New York Rangers, but yeah, they did not look good in their game against Pittsburgh.
Right, yeah, I was...
Yeah.
Crosby had, 2 goals?
Yeah, after having a down year, comes to life. So we'll see. I mean, I still think the Rangers are really deep, and I still think they should be the favorite in that series.
That team is so stacked.
Yeah, I imagine they're going to get at least one back of the next 2 in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I agree.
And then they'll be able to take control from there. But if not, then I'm in trouble because that's my cup winner, and I'm sure to lose $11.40 that way.
And that's an interesting series too, going back to Pittsburgh, because if you remember right, if the Rangers can get up, 2-0 early, those fans like to turn on their team.
Yes,
so that could be home ice advantage New York Rangers right away.
That's a good point, and they're already, an angry fan base. I mean, a wild card spot is unknown territory to the Penguins.
Yeah, they could be the Kings right now.
Penguin fans, yeah. So, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I still like the Rangers. I'm But I really don't regret any pick other than Washington right now.
I guess I really don't regret any of my picks at all. I mean, Washington is the one that's obviously not panning out well for me as well. But there's still series to play.
We should probably talk a little bit about the PK Subban / Mark Stone following Game 1 on Wednesday. Subban was given a 5 in a game, but received no further discipline from the NHL player safety. Joe, what were your thoughts on that?
I think his reaction to that after the game, in the press conference, might have saved him a game or two.
I 100% agree. So I got the CBC story up here, and it was further down. Senators coach Dave Cameron said it's you either do one of two things. It's you either suspend them, or when one of their best players gets slashed, just give us 5. I think I hate to think this, but I think he probably, being a rookie head coach, probably cost the NHL any motivation to take further action because it would look like they were caving.
And really, Subban has no history. I mean, I'm okay with it. I'd also be okay with a 1-game suspension.
He did get suspended for something like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I don't remember what. I mean, he doesn't have a history like this. Like, this was malicious.
Right.
Like you saw it. He said it was stupid. He was a little irritated that Stone returned to the game, but
yeah,
like he said afterwards, it could have been worse. He could be getting suspended.
I've got the CBC story linked on the show post if you want to catch it right away. There's a great GIF of that as well if you want to see Subban lose his mind.
Yeah, he lost his mind afterwards, but I think when he calmed down and became clear-headed, he realized he did something really stupid. I mean, he hacked him pretty good.
Oh, yeah, I have no problem with the 5-in-game. I would have liked to have seen a 1-game suspension as well for that. I mean, there's no reason to do that unless your intent is to hurt somebody. So,
yeah, he was nowhere near really being anywhere near dangerous or in a threatening position to score or anything. He was just, skating across the crease. So that was rough. That was very un-Subban-like. I don't usually see him do stuff like that. And
yeah.
He even admitted it was a stupid play, and
he did. To his credit, maybe that helped his cause as well. Because I mean, he knows he's a face of the league, and he sees somebody that might get star treatment.
So, you really hate the Habs, don't you?
I do hate the Habs. My goodness.
I like the Habs. If the Wild weren't here, I'd be a Habs fan.
Yeah, well, that's a shame. So, but no, I do like PK Subban on the whole, but I don't want to see any more of that intent to injure stuff. That's bad for the game. So
I don't want to see that from anyone.
Yeah.
I think people get me confused or get that idea confused with like the anti-fighting in hockey people.
Right.
Fighting has its place. It does.
I actually wholeheartedly agree with you. As long as there are bad refs, there needs to be fighting in the NHL. That's pretty much my stance. So. Yeah.
Fighting has its place. Malicious hacking like that, or like the Matt Martin hit on Ballard.
Yes.
Or...
Oh, by the way, Matt Martin isn't that kind of player, though, according to every Islanders fan ever.
That's okay. That's why he's been suspended already again this year.
Ugh.
Should have been suspended twice.
Yeah. That was ridiculous.
We were both at that game, actually.
Yes. I think, fortunate I was behind the bench where he fell, so I didn't actually see the hole.
And I didn't either. I think I called out to the Twitterverse and had them send me a GIF or a video of it.
Yeah.
To see him convulsing on the ground, the ice like that, it made me sick to my stomach.
Russo actually had a good piece on Ballard this morning. He's apparently going to be offered the opportunity to skate with the Black Aces, which are the people being called up from Des Moines. Their season ended on Saturday, so they'll be practicing separately from the team, but they're apparently all available. I don't believe Ballard's actually available, but he's going to be practicing with these AHL guys just in case they would be needed in the lineup. I can't imagine that's likely either, but they're going to get an opportunity to play more since Atwa Wild didn't even sniff the playoffs this year, so they'll be part of the big club for a little bit, at least from practice perspective. So I think that's good news that Ballard's healthy enough for that. So
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see him, even if it's just up in the press box. But I'm not a big Ballard fan. I think he has some defensive liabilities. I think he's
I
slow to the puck. But on the other aspect of it, I don't want to ever see a player.
no, nobody would mistake criticism of his game for happy he's out.
Yeah, that's
I think that's a tragic way for a career to end, and it makes me sick, and it's among the things that kind of make me ashamed of the game sometimes.
and that's exactly it. You know, when Suter slashed, who was it from Nashville that he slashed?
Oh, I don't even remember.
He got 2 games for it, but
Yeah,
I was okay with that. I don't want
yeah.
that stuff in the game. He did apologize after the game for it and
Mhm.
everything, and he did everything right. And that's not really a part of Suter's game, but I was okay with the 2 games. Get that dirty stuff that's going to hurt people out of the game.
I agree, and the league is just not nearly tough enough on these things. I mean, it should really. I'm surprised they don't realize it's in their interest to protect the players that are bringing the skill to the game. And they just seem to, whenever something happens, they just want to make it as low profile as possible, as if it doesn't matter. And I think that does a disservice to the players that are bringing skill to the game.
Yeah, exactly. I can count on. It'd take me 20,000 hands to count all the infractions that go missed, and
Yeah,
I can see the refs on the ice maybe missing something, but that should be picked up by NHLPA or
I agree.
NHL player safety, and
Yeah.
they should be handing out discipline after the game.
I 100% agree. I'd like to see more of that, but I'm not, optimistic that that's the future of Department of Player Safety. And unfortunately, it's probably going to have to get a lot worse than it is before we do see the kind of change we're looking for.
Well, with the players we're bringing into the game, I'm not really sure it's not going to get worse.
Yeah. Well, that's a shame. I got one more bit of Montreal outrage to bring up today. Apparently, 2 Ottawa Senators fans were abused by Canadiens fans. They were physically being hit with rally towels and had beer dumped on them after the loss on Saturday. The reports are that even after being reported to Bell Center staff, nothing was done. And this is just an atrocious situation as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if you're familiar with this story at all. It kind of broke last night and this morning.
I am not familiar with it, but I will say this, and I said it last week. Let's not mistake a couple of Habs fans for all Habs fans.
There's some there's a checkered past of racism and stuff with Habs fans too that isn't exactly great. And I know I don't want to. I know I do have that tendency to want to judge, but I gotta tell you, if somebody should have stood up for these two, and nobody did, and by all reports, and it's just disturbing that I would like to think that if I saw this going on, I would stick up for the visiting fans.
That is true. I kind of saw some similar behavior when I went to the Winnipeg game. Some Wild fans were heckling pretty harshly and throwing popcorn at some Winnipeg fans, and
That's not good.
me and my buddy stood up and put an end to that. So yeah, you're definitely right. Someone should have stood up for them.
I appreciate you're representing the state of hockey well. So
Yeah, they're fans. They're there to represent their team. It's not in any way, shape, or form their fault that your team is performing poorly.
yes. Well, I don't even think that's what this was about. I think they just saw the wrong jersey and went nuts.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
I hope we find out that more is done about this because, I mean, frankly, if you did this to somebody on the street, you'd be doing time, at least in America.
Well, this is kind of along the same controversy as we had last year with Boston and Montreal and the racist comments that came out of Boston Twitter.
That's true. That was really bad. I remember that. So, or was it Boston and Washington that was?
No, it was Boston because they were calling
Okay.
PK Subban the N-word.
Okay.
And it so happens that the idiots that were tweeting that didn't realize that his brother is their AHL goaltender.
Oh, jeez. I didn't realize that either. Oh, that's...
Yeah.
Oh.
Jordan Subban is their goaltender in the AHL.
I had no idea. I don't know a lot about the Eastern Conference in either league, as it turns out. So, Well, there's enough Eastern Conference bias out there. I figure I can watch ours closer, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I followed that pretty Boston. That was one of those things where Boston was getting so much attention for being classy and because of the Boston Marathon.
Right, absolutely.
And then they go and do this.
Yeah, that was just disheartening. So, well, do you have any other playoff thoughts? Anything to look for this week?
No, just one thing, caution to the fans. Don't overreact on Twitter. Don't tweet your hatred until you really think about the situation we're in and compare it to where we've been.
Yeah, I think it was absolutely legit to be disappointed yesterday, but this series is far from over.
Yeah, I mean, I was just definitely disappointed, but
yeah,
I kind of tend to stay away from the negative on Twitter when, if you haven't noticed, I didn't tweet after yesterday's game at all.
No, I guess I didn't see much from you, and I tweeted a little bit. Oh, there is one more thing we should bring up. Freaking Edmonton won the draft lottery last night.
That's a shocker.
This team, what is that, like 4 first-round picks in the last 7 or 8 years, and they are 9 years absent from the playoffs now.
Yep, and they're going to go for another forward, I'm sure.
Yes. So
they really don't have a choice, do they?
I thought this was a clever thought that if Buffalo had to lose the draft lottery, they should lose. They're lucky Edmonton won it because they're sure to make the wrong choice and leave Buffalo with the right choice between Eichel and McDavid.
I think McDavid's a clear winner there, though, honestly.
Yeah, probably. So, I mean, and to tell you the truth, I don't follow juniors in college as much as I should. I don't find out about prospects until a couple weeks before the draft, except in McDavid and Eichel's case because they're ubiquitous in all hockey media.
I just looked at their draft hype videos,
and
that's the only thing I've seen on them, and I think McDavid just looks cleaner, crisper, more NHL ready than Eichel.
Okay. So, but they both should be stars. So
yeah, they'll both probably be in the NHL next year. So,
and that's the thing with the NHL draft that's different from other sports is that they get drafted so young and sent back to their teams before they join. You can usually count on one hand the number of NHL ready players when they get drafted at their draft age in most drafts.
Exactly.
So it's not like the NFL draft where they need to perform right away or it's over. So,
well, McKinnon was kind of like that, and I think he's actually suffering. Well, he suffered this year for it.
I think that's bad coaching.
You would.
Of course I would. So, all right. So Wild play Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and next Sunday would be Game 6 if necessary. So if the series does go 7, the deciding game would be on Wednesday the 29th, so we will drop the next episode on Tuesday the 28th. So please listen, and thank you to everybody that is downloading our show right now, and please keep sending your comments to #SOTSOPod, and we would love to talk about them on the show.
Yeah, and definitely we'll tweet out all the events that we go to, the viewing parties, the parties at Joe Sensors or wherever it may be. Feel free to join us. We're always looking for company.
Yep, we had a good time on Saturday, at least as long as we could stay. We had to leave partway through. We brought our little girl, and she didn't end up doing so well. It was probably just a little too noisy for her, but it was definitely a good time, and I'd never been to Sensors before, to be honest, and I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I definitely like Sensors. They got good food and good service there, and the TVs are nice and strategically placed, and when I say that, I mean everywhere. They're just everywhere.
Yeah, whole wall, all projections, so... All right. The producer of the State of Hockey podcast is Andy Carlson. Please look for him at AndyMustDie.com. For that podcast, he co-hosts with Di Murphy, and also Purple for the Win. That's PurpleFTW.com. And check out his interview with Paul Allen that he did last week. I thought that he did a really good job on that. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that, give that a try. So that's going to be it for the show this week. For my co-host Joe Hayford, I'm Justin Jelnick. Let's go Wild, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to the State of the Hockey podcast. The music was created and produced by Deeb. To hear more of his tracks, visit soundcloud.com/Deeb.